How an empath deals with a sociopath? Several people have asked me how an empath works with a sociologist. Honestly, I'm not even sure what it is. Are you sure? You're talking about sociopaths? Because by definitions, they are people who lack empathy and use other people to get what they want at their expense. Yes, they'll tell me so. Well, for the sake of this argument, let's say it's a sociopath you're dealing with. When it's at work, they can have problems because they tend to use any means to get their way. When empaths try to do their best to help, they can be abused and taken advantage of. However, not only sympathy will be vulnerable, many people succumb to the machinations of a sociopath. The real question is, why do you allow this? The answer is generally fear. Fear of getting hurt, fear of being fired, fear of revenge, fear that they may be guilty and only try to make things better. Yes, in these conditions, they wither. And it is certainly known that escaping from the sphere of influence of a sociopath is not always practical. When I think about it, I believe that I worked under this kind of man for 4 years. To be honest, I couldn't see a way out. They need you more than you need them. You can't simply say no or insist on some unreasonable demands. However, her situation is rarely normal, and there were other forces that later confronted and overcame them. However, it's hard to tell your situation applies to the general population, so let's look at some ways you can avoid these types of people. First of all, it is necessary to understand that nothing is accidental, and we live both in our own creative truth and in the truth that we created together. This means that you are in a situation where you agreed. As the soul is rarely careless, you will find that there is always a reason why it has appeared this way. This argument has been used many times, but it doesn't really work because it seems both insensitive and simplistic. It is only when you understand when you are and what part you have in that you can change a thing. When you decide that you are a victim, and that everything is out of your control, there is the reality you choose for yourself. You can argue that it isn't, but you can have free will if you find yourself in a situation you didn't choose. Many people disagree with this. In fact, they remain in their current situation. Why they choose to do so is known only to them and their high self. But when they decide they have had enough, they look for answers, and when they are serious about changing things, they begin to change their mindset and belief system. Remember that your reality is based on your belief system, and while sacrifice can be very tempting, it is ultimately a choice that you have made on some level. By the way, you asked me how to deal with falling out with a sociopath. The answer is that nothing will change until you understand that you are with your own design. Or if it does, it may not be the result you want. Good. So, there we are with our design. How does this help? First of all, you can take responsibility for where you are. You can plant the seeds of a new situation. A situation where there are no negative people around you. But we warn, unless you become a master of manifestation, it will take some time to change things. The key is to pick one thing over and over and say, this or something better. Of course, the relative term is better. Empaths are often abused by many people. There are those who gain their power through intimidation or dominance. There are those who manipulate and force others to do their will through sin. Now you may argue that you never had to deal with such people, or that someone like a child is too young to create your situations. And again, I would agree, we are not born to random parents. The soul aspect is very aware of the choices it made before it was born in this life. Sometimes things don't go their way, so they move to another reality where they can experience what they want. For some, it may seem like the death of a person, but it often happens that the soul has moved to another timeline. One can say parallel, to continue its missions and goals. If you didn't want to be here, you just wouldn't be here. You would be in a different place. At this point, you have to think that you are in a situation where you want it on some level. So let's say you accept this universal law and realize that you no longer want to obey people who use or abuse you. First, recognize that these people have given you valuable insights into who you are, your nature, and your perspective that you might not have gotten otherwise. They may have made you stronger, made you realize that what you are capable of, or taught you the patience to face difficult circumstances or situations. Of course, it's very hard to see or understand until you look at it in hindsight. Nothing in your life is the worst, not in the long run. When we see others as victims, we do them a great disservice. Finally, letting go is the best choice and creating reality is the choice again. In the end, there could be a major change, but reality will eventually set in and you will no longer have that person in your life. That's an oversimplified statement, but suffice it to say that mechanically, there's a lot more to it than what we're discussing here. Some people say that they actually find it less stressful to be around a sociopath because they don't hear about them as much. A sociopath keeps his cards close to his chest. Some may be honest, but trust me, they have their own agendas, which are well hidden. In this case, they do not produce enough energy, so there is not much to collect. Yes, it is possible to relax by connecting with them, but I do not recommend it as a healthy alternative.